Unexpected arrival, Archer Blackwood stood on the deck of his mountain retreat, whiskey glass in hand, watching the meteor shower streak across the night sky. Forbes had once called him the most brilliant and insufferable tech visionary of his generation, a description he privately considered accurate on both counts. At 38, he had revolutionized quantum computing, amassed billions, and managed to alienate nearly everyone who had ever cared about him. Precisely why he was here. 10,000 feet up in the Colorado Rockies, alone except for his thoughts and the distant stars. Spectacular, isn't it, Alexander? He murmured to the sleek German shepherd at his feet. The dog's ears perked up at his name, but his eyes remained fixed on something in the distance. Archer followed his gaze. One of the meteors wasn't behaving normally. Its trajectory had shifted, its speed decreasing as it approached. It was ... maneuvering. "That's not possible," Archer whispered, setting down his glass and reaching for the high-powered telescope he kept on the deck. Through the lens, he observed the object's controlled descent, its metallic surface reflecting moonlight as it disappeared behind the tree line several miles north of his property. Moments later, a faint boom echoed across the valley, followed by a flash of blue light. Archer considered his options. Call authorities, investigate himself, pour another whiskey, and pretend he'd seen nothing. The last option was tempting. What do you think, Alexander? Should we ignore the laws of physics being broken in our backyard? The dog was already at the door, tail wagging expectantly. Trader Archer muttered, but he was already reaching for his jacket and hiking boots. 30 minutes later, guided by his tactical flashlight and Alexander's keen senses, Archer found himself at the edge of a small crater. What sat in the center was undeniably not a meteor. The craft hand, it was clearly a craft, was approximately 15 feet long. Its surface covered in what appeared to be liquid metal that rippled with iridescent patterns. Definitely not one of ours, Archer observed, his analytical mind already cataloging the impossibilities before him. No heat signature despite the impact. No visible propulsion system. Material unknown to current science. A section of the craft suddenly liquefied, forming an opening. Alexander growled softly beside him. Archer placed a calming hand on the dog's head, while reaching for the sidearm holstered under his jacket with his other hand. He'd made enough enemies in the tech world to justify paranoia. A figure emerged, stumbling slightly. Archer's flashlight beam caught it, and his breath stopped. The visitor stood slightly shorter than his 6-foot frame, with a distinctly feminine form. But what froze Archer in place was her skin, unmistakable shade of purple, with subtle patterns that seemed to shift beneath the surface. Her face was almost human, with high cheekbones and large almond-shaped eyes that reflected the flashlight with an amber glow. "Impossible," Archer whispered, his genius mind for once failing to process what he was seeing. The visitor took another unsteady step forward, then collapsed to one knee, clearly injured. She looked up, those alien eyes meeting his with unmistakable intelligence. "Help," she said, the word perfect English, despite a musical accent he couldn't place. "Please." Then she fell forward. Archer moved instinctively, catching her before she hit the ground. Her skin felt warm against his hands, with a texture like velvet, and those shifting patterns pulsed where he touched her. "Alexander, down," he commanded as the dog approached, sniffing curiously. To Archer's surprise, the shepherd didn't seem aggressive toward the stranger, merely interested. The visitor's eyes fluttered open, fixing on Archer's face with unsettling intensity. "Danger following," she managed, her voice fading. "Must hide." Archer's mind raced through scenarios, each more unsettling than the last. Government agencies. Foreign powers. Competitors who would kill for alien technology. His isolated mountain retreat suddenly felt dangerously exposed. "Who's following you?" he demanded. But her eyes had closed, her breathing shallow but steady. Unconscious, then, but alive. Whoever she was. Archer Blackwood, who had built his fortune on calculated risks and cold logic, faced a decision that no algorithm could solve. The rational choice was clear. Contact authorities. Let them handle this impossible situation, return to his solitary existence. Instead, he lifted the purple-skinned visitor into his arms, surprised by her lightness. "Come on, Alexander. Apparently, we're harboring an alien fugitive tonight." As he carried her back toward his home, the stars continued their silent watch overhead. Somewhere among them, Archer suspected, someone was looking for the woman in his arms. And he had just made himself part of a cosmic equation he couldn't begin to calculate. The meteor shower had ended, but something far more significant had just begun. Reluctant. Protector dawn brought unwelcome clarity to Archer's mountain home. Sunlight streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating the purple-skinned visitor who now occupied his guest bedroom. He had treated her injuries as best he could, a laceration on her arm, bruising along her side, working through the night with medical supplies from his well-stocked emergency kit now. Leaning against the doorframe with his third cup of coffee, Archer confronted the reality of his situation. He had brought an alien, an actual extraterrestrial being, into his home. Harvard Business School hadn't covered first contact protocols. "This is temporary," he told Alexander, who sat loyally at his side. "We patch her up, find out what she wants, then send her on her way. No complications." The visitor stirred, her eyes opening slowly. Those eyes large, expressive, with irises that shifted between amber and gold depending on the light. "Definitely not human, double quotes, where, ... She began attempting to sit up. "Easy," Archer said, approaching cautiously. "You're safe." For now, she studied him with unnerving intensity. "You help me. Don't read too much into it." Archer set his coffee down. "I have questions. Starting with who and what you are." "My name is Lyra." She spoke carefully, as if testing each word. "I am a scientific emissary from the Lycerian Collective." "An alien scientist," Archer noted dryly. "Naturally, your skepticism is understandable." Lyra winced as she adjusted her position. "I would react similarly to unprecedented biological contact." Archer raised an eyebrow. Her vocabulary and sentence structure were remarkably sophisticated. "How are you speaking English?" Lyra touched a small, iridescent device at her throat that Archer had assumed was jewelry. "Universal Translator. It analyzes linguistic patterns and facilitates communication." "Convenient," Archer muttered. "Why are you here? And who's following you?" Lyra's expression darkened, the shifting patterns beneath her purple skin slowing noticeably. "I was conducting atmospheric research when my ship was attacked by rival faction ships. They object to any contact with developing worlds." "Developing?" Archer's pride bristled. "Earth has achieved quantum computing, space exploration, level 3 technology," Lyra stated matter-of-factly. "Impressive, but early stage." Archer opened his mouth to argue, then closed it. If she could travel between stars, perhaps his technological achievements weren't quite as revolutionary as Forbes had claimed. "These rivals," he redirected, "will they come looking for you?" "Yes." Lyra's directness was unsettling. "They will track my ship's energy signature. I must repair my communications array and contact my people before they find me." Archer moved to the window, scanning the clear mountain sky. "And what happens if these hostiles find you first?" "They will eliminate any evidence of extraterrestrial contact." Her gaze met his, including witnesses. The implication hung between them. By helping her, Archer had potentially signed his own death warrant. "Fantastic," he muttered. "Alexander and I were due for some excitement." A sudden alert from his security system interrupted them. Archer activated the tablet on the bedside table, displaying camera feeds from the property perimeter. 2 black SUVs were making their way up the private road toward his gate. "That was fast," Archer said, his mind already calculating escape routes. Lyra leaned forward, examining the vehicles. "Not my pursuers." "Your government, most likely?" "How can you tell?" "The vehicles are too primitive." Archer might have laughed if the situation weren't so dire. "Stay here. Don't make a sound." Downstairs, he quickly accessed his security system, initiating privacy protocols. The gates remained closed as the vehicles approached. A man in a dark suit emerged from the lead SUV, pressing the intercom button. "Mr. Blackwood." "Agent Daniel Myers, Department of Homeland Security. We need to speak with you regarding an incident last night. Archer activated the outdoor speaker. I'm in the middle of a critical development cycle, Agent Myers. Whatever you're selling, I'm not interested. This isn't optional, sir. Satellite imagery shows an anomalous impact near your property. We have authorization to investigate. Archer's mind raced through options. His property was legally fortified with every privacy protection his billions could buy. But federal agencies had ways around such barriers. Give me 5 minutes to secure my work. Then you can bore me with your questions. He disconnected before Myers could respond. Rushing back upstairs, Archer found Lyra attempting to stand, her purple skin pale with exertion. We need to move now. He gathered essential supplies into a backpack. There's a hidden bunker beneath this house, designed for emergencies. This qualifies. My ship contains technology your government should not acquire, Lyra said urgently. One problem at a time. Archer offered his arm for support. Can you walk? She nodded, leaning against him. The contact sent an unexpected warmth through his body. Not unpleasant, but definitely alien. The shifting patterns beneath her skin accelerated where they touched. Interesting reaction, he observed clinically, masking his discomfort. Bioenergetic resonance, Lyra explained as they moved toward the hidden elevator. Your species emits a compatible frequency. Lucky me. Alexander trotted ahead as they descended to the reinforced bunker Archer had built for worst case. Scenarios: market crashes, assassination attempts, global pandemics. Alien visitors hadn't made the list, but the principle was the same. Survive, analyze, adapt. As the bunker door sealed behind them, Archer heard the distant sound of his front gate being breached. Agent Myers had apparently run out of patience. In the stark light of the bunker, Lyra looked both more alien and strangely vulnerable. Her purple skin contrasted with the clinical white surroundings, her otherworldly beauty undeniable even to Archer's detached perspective. Why are you really helping me? She asked, those golden eyes searching his face. You gain nothing from this risk. Archer Blackwood, who had built his empire on calculating every angle, found himself without a logical answer. Let's just say I'm not a fan of government overreach, he replied finally. Besides, Alexander likes you. He's a better judge of character than I am. The German shepherd, hearing his name, moved to Lyra's side, resting his head against her leg with unexpected affection. Lyra placed her hand gently on the dog's head, the gesture so human that Archer felt something shift in his perception of her. Your companion recognizes kindred energy, Lyra said softly. Animals often do. Archer turned away, uncomfortable with the implication. We'll stay here until they leave. Then we'll figure out how to contact your people before your actual pursuers arrive. What he didn't say was how completely. This strange visitor had appended his carefully controlled existence in less than 12 hours, or how, despite his determined detachment, he found himself increasingly fascinated by the alien woman who now depended on him for survival. Barriers. Breaking 3 days in the bunker had changed Archer's perception of his unexpected guest. He'd expected confusion, helplessness, perhaps even the stereotypical alien detachment portrayed in science fiction. Instead, Lyra had proved herself remarkably adaptable and intellectually formidable. Your understanding of quantum mechanics is creative, she observed, reviewing his latest research on the holographic display. Unconventional, but elegant. Archer glanced up from the communication device they were attempting to repair. Salvaged from her ship during a risky midnight expedition, the technology was unlike anything he'd ever encountered. Creative meaning wrong? He challenged, used to having his genius questioned. Lyra's lips curved in what he'd come to recognize as her version of a smile, meaning you've reached accurate conclusions despite working with incomplete information. Impressive for level 3 development. I'm going to choose to take that as a compliment, Archer muttered. Returning to the delicate circuitry before him, working together had created an unexpected intimacy. The bunker's confined space meant constant proximity, and Archer found himself noticing details about Lyra that seemed increasingly less alien. The graceful efficiency of her movements, The musical cadence of her voice, the intelligence that matched his own. "May I?" Lyra asked, gesturing toward the component he was struggling with. Their fingers brushed as she took the device, sending that now familiar warmth through his hand. The sensation had intensified with each contact, a phenomenon Archer found himself both analyzing and anticipating. "Bioenergetic resonance again?" he asked, watching as she manipulated the crystalline core with practiced ease. "Yes," she confirmed. "Though the effect appears stronger than typical interspecies interaction, is that unusual?" Lyra's golden eyes met his. "Among my people, such resonance typically occurs only between compatible ... partners." The implication hung between them, scientific and intimate simultaneously. Archer cleared his throat, uncomfortable with the direction of his thoughts. "The government agents have been gone for 2 days," he said, changing the subject. "We should be able to return to the main house soon." "They will return," Lyra stated with certainty. "Your authorities are persistent, and my pursuers draw closer. How do you know?" Lyra gestured to the device. "Even damaged, it detects approaching Lycerian energy signatures. They will reach this system within days." Archer leaned back, considering their options. "Then we need to accelerate repairs." "What else do you need from your ship?" "The primary resonance coil. Without it, we cannot establish interstellar communication." The thought of another excursion to the crash site made Archer tense. Satellite surveillance would be watching, perhaps ground teams as well. The risk increased with each passing day. "We'll go tonight," he decided. "Use the storm front that's moving in for cover." That evening, as they prepared for the dangerous retrieval mission, Archer found Lyra in his library. She had discovered it during their brief return to the main house for supplies. Now she stood surrounded by his collection of first editions, her fingers gently tracing the spine of a leather-bound volume. "Your species preserves knowledge beautifully," she observed without turning. "We store everything digitally. There is something intimate about these physical artifacts." Archer approached, noting how the fading sunlight cast her purple skin in shades of lavender and indigo. "That's Shelley. Frankenstein, perhaps not the best introduction to human literature when meeting aliens." "A creator fearing his creation," Lyra mused, opening the book carefully. "We have similar narratives. The fear of the other seems universal." Archer found himself standing closer than he had intended. "Is that why these rivals of yours want to prevent contact? Fear?" "Partly." Lyra turned to face him, close enough that he could see the subtle variations in her skin tone, the depths in her golden eyes. "Also control. Knowledge is power throughout the universe." "And what do you hope to gain from Earth?" "From humans?" Archer asked softly. "Understanding." Her voice had dropped to match his. "Connection. The Lycerian collective believes diversity strengthens all. Isolation breeds stagnation." "A philosophy I've historically disagreed with," Archer admitted. "I built my life around isolation. Focused excellence. And has it brought you happiness, Archer Blackwood?" The question, so simple and direct, struck him with unexpected force. Before he could formulate a response, Alexander's alert bark broke the moment. The security system chimed simultaneously. "Movement at the perimeter," Archer said, checking the tablet. "Government agents. They're back earlier than expected." Lyra closed the book carefully. "We should return to the bunker." As they moved through the house, Archer made a spontaneous decision. "No, they'll just keep coming back. Time to try a different approach." "What do you mean?" Archer straightened his shoulders. "I'm Archer Blackwood. I don't hide in bunkers. I own tech companies worth billions, hold dozens of patents, and have enough lawyers to keep the government tied up for decades." Lyra looked skeptical. "Your plan is confrontation?" "My plan is arrogance," Archer corrected with a grim smile. "Something I excel at. Stay out of sight." Alexander gurred. The dog moved protectively to Lyra's side as Archer strode toward the front door. Moments later, Agent Myers found himself facing the full force of Archer Blackwood's legendary intimidation, unless you have a warrant specifically detailing what you're looking for. "You're trespassing on private property," Archer stated coldly. My attorneys are already filing harassment complaints with your superiors. Myers remained calm. We're investigating a potential threat to national security, Mr. Blackwood, a meteor. How patriotic of you. Archer leaned against the doorframe, the picture of annoyed billionaire. I've already told you, I saw nothing unusual except a spectacular light show. Now, unless you're here to discuss a sizable donation to your retirement fund, we're done. The confrontation continued for several tense minutes before Myers reluctantly retreated, promising to return with proper authorization. As the SUVs disappeared down the mountain road, Archer allowed himself a moment of relief before returning inside. He found Lyra in the kitchen, Alexander still faithfully at her side. "They'll be back," she said, those golden eyes studying him with new appreciation. "But your performance was ... effective." Archer shrugged. Being underestimated is useful. Being feared is better. Being both is optimal. You're an unusual human. Archer Blackwood, so I've been told. Repeatedly. Something had shifted between them during those tense moments, a mutual recognition of capabilities, of strength. As they finalized preparations for their midnight mission, Archer found himself watching Lyra with increasing fascination. The alien visitor was becoming less alien by the hour, and the implications of that transformation both intrigued and unsettled him. When darkness fell and the storm clouds gathered above the mountains, they set out toward the crash site. Side by side, they moved through the forest like shadows, an unlikely partnership forged by circumstance and strengthened by something neither was quite ready to name. Impossible choices storm raged around them as they made their way back to the house. The resonance coils secured in Archer's pack. Rain lashed their faces, lightning illuminating the forest in stark flashes that made the familiar landscape seem alien and threatening. "We should have waited," Archer shouted over the wind, supporting Lyra as she navigated the slippery terrain. Her injuries, though healing remarkably fast, still hampered her movement. "No time," she responded, her voice barely audible above the storm. "My pursuers are too close." They had found her ship partially dismantled. Clear evidence that government scientists had located and begun examining the craft. Only Archer's intimate knowledge of the mountain terrain had allowed them to approach undetected, retrieve the critical component, and escape before the guards had completed their patrol circuit. When they finally reached the house, both were soaked and exhausted. Archer secured the doors, while Lyra carefully dried the precious resonance coil. "Will it still work?" he asked, handing her a towel. Lyra examined the crystalline device, its interior swirling with colors that seemed to exist beyond normal human perception. Lycerian technology is remarkably resilient. Archer watched as she dried her purple skin, noticing how the luminescent patterns beneath the surface had intensified during their exertion. Her wet clothes, borrowed from his own wardrobe, clung to her form in ways that made it difficult to maintain his analytical detachment. "You should change," he said abruptly, turning away. "I'll prepare the communication array." In the study, Archer connected the components they had modified over the past days, creating a hybrid of Lycerian technology and his own quantum computing systems. The integration was elegant, almost beautiful in its complexity. They had worked well together, their minds operating on similar frequencies, despite evolving on different worlds. Lyra joined him, now wearing dry clothes, her purple skin almost glowing in the dim light. "It's ready? As ready as it can be, given the circumstances?" Archer stepped back, allowing her access to the system. "What happens when you contact your people?" Lyra's fingers moved across the controls with practiced precision. "They will send a retrieval vessel. Small, undetectable by your technology, and then you leave." Archer stated it as fact, ignoring the unexpected hollow feeling the words created. Lyra paused. Those golden eyes finding his? "Yes, my mission was never meant to include direct contact. Observation only. Yet here we are." "Here we are," she echoed softly. The communication array hummed to life, crystalline elements pulsing with energy that seemed to bend the air around them. Lyra input a complex sequence, then stepped back as the device projected a holographic display unlike anything Archer had ever seen. Mathematical patterns and symbols that shifted and flowed like living things. Message sent, Lyra confirmed. Now we wait. Waiting proved more difficult than Archer had anticipated. Each hour brought the likelihood of either government agents returning with proper warrants or Lycerian rivals tracking Lyra's energy signature. Tension filled the house, creating a strange intimacy between them as they shared what might be their final hours. Together, they sat before the massive fireplace in Archer's living room, the flames casting dancing shadows across Lyra's features. Alexander dozed contentedly between them. Having fully accepted Lyra as part of his small pack, "Tell me about your world," Archer said. Breaking the comfortable silence that had settled between them, Lyra single quotes expression softened with memory. Lyceria orbits a binary star system. Twin suns create perpetual twilight across most habitable regions. Our cities are built within massive crystal formations that amplify and store solar energy. Sounds beautiful.
It is.
But after traveling to 17 different systems, I've learned beauty exists in infinite variations. Her eyes met his. Your world has its own unique elegance, particularly this isolated place you've chosen. Archer glanced around the modernist glass and stone structure he'd designed himself. I built this retreat to escape humanity. Ironic that it became First Contact headquarters instead. Why do you isolate yourself? Lyra asked, her directness still occasionally catching him off guard. Archer considered deflecting, as he typically did when people questioned his reclusiveness. Instead, he found himself answering honestly. People are complicated, inconsistent, emotional. I function better with systems I can predict and control. You helped me, Lyra observed. An unpredictable variable that compromised your controlled environment. A momentary lapse in judgment. Archer replied with the ghost of a smile. Lyra leaned forward slightly. I don't believe that. The resonance between us suggests otherwise. The statement hung between them, challenging and intimate. Archer found himself moving closer, drawn by something beyond rational thought. This resonance, he said quietly. What exactly does it mean among your people? Compatibility at a quantum level. Rare even between Lycerians. Between different species, unprecedented. Her voice had dropped to barely above a whisper. It suggests harmonic alignment of energy fields. Very scientific, Archer noted. Now close enough to see the subtle variations in her golden eyes. Science and emotion are not separate concepts for Lycerians, Lyra explained. Both are expressions of universal energy. When their lips finally met, the contact sent waves of warmth cascading through Archer's body. Unlike anything he had experienced before, the luminescent patterns beneath Lyra's purple skin brightened dramatically, casting them both in a soft, ethereal glow. Her fingers traced the contours of his face with gentle curiosity. Exploring differences and similarities between their forms, Archer pulled back slightly, his pragmatic mind still struggling with the implications. This is arguably the definition of a complicated situation. Lyra's expression held both understanding and determination. Complexity is the foundation of all worthwhile discoveries. Their second kiss deepened, breaking down barriers Archer had maintained for decades. He had built his fortune on logical decisions, calculated risks, and emotional distance. Yet here, with this impossible visitor from another world, logic seemed increasingly irrelevant. The moment was shattered by a piercing alert from the communication array. Lyra pulled away, moving quickly to the study with Archer close behind. The holographic display had transformed, now showing a three-dimensional star chart with a pulsing indicator. They've received my message, Lyra announced, her voice tight with both relief and something that sounded like regret. A retrieval vessel has been dispatched. Arrival in approximately 6 hours. Archer should have felt relief. The government hadn't returned. The hostile Lycerians hadn't found them. Lyra would soon be safely reunited with her people. Problem solved. Instead, he felt a hollow ache expanding in his chest. 6 hours until she departed. 6 hours until his life returned to the controlled isolation he had so carefully constructed. Together, They stepped into the vessel, Alexander faithfully following at their heels. As the doorway sealed behind them, Archer had a final glimpse of Earth, military vehicles arriving, personnel pouring out. Faces turned upward in amazement at the impossible craft rising before them. Then they were ascending, the mountains falling away beneath them, his former life becoming distant with each passing second. Around him, Lycerian crew members regarded him with scientific curiosity. Ahead, the stars awaited. "What happens now?" he asked as Earth diminished to a blue marble below them. Lyra's fingers remained entwined with his, the resonance between them a constant reminder of their unusual bond. "Now you become the first human ambassador to the Lycerian Collective, a bridge between worlds." "I've never been particularly diplomatic," Archer admitted wryly. "Perhaps not," Lyra agreed with a smile that had become precious to him. "But you recognized value where others saw only threat. You chose connection over isolation when it mattered most." As the vessel accelerated beyond Earth's atmosphere, Archer Blackwood, billionaire, recluse, reluctant hero, looked toward the stars that would now become his home. The man who had once built walls to keep the world at a distance had just crossed the ultimate boundary. And for the first time in his life, he felt no need to calculate the risk. Some equations transcended ordinary mathematics. Some connections defied rational analysis. And some journeys, however improbable, were simply meant to be. Beside him, Lyra's purple skin glowed with the luminescent patterns that had first fascinated him days ago. Different worlds, different biologies, yet connected by something both scientific and miraculous. As Earth faded from view and new stars beckoned ahead, Archer realized he had finally found what he never knew he was seeking. Not isolation, but its opposite. Not control, but surrender to possibilities beyond calculation. Across unfathomable distance, across differences that should have made connection impossible, they had found each other. And in that improbable meeting of worlds, both had discovered something worth crossing the stars to preserve.